Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Saturday edition video here in World of Warships. As today we're going to be doing an upgrade and commander build of the Tier 9 Premium German super heavy cruiser, the Ägir, something like that. So we're going to talk about an overview of the ship, look at the armor, discuss what type of cruiser in general she is, look at the upgrades, consumables, modules, and the commander most definitely. So when we're talking about the Ägir, what type of cruiser is she? Well, as I said, she's a super heavy cruiser, but when we're looking at her over, she is much more of a close quarters brawling cruiser. So you can have maybe a long range HE spamming cruiser, like let's say you have long range cruisers, you have close quarters combat cruisers, and then you have kind of those cruisers that are in the medium range, let's say 12, 13, 14 kilometers. The Ägir plays that medium range role, but definitely the close quarters role. Her main battery consists of these 305mm guns. She's got 9 of them in 3 turrets, 6 in the front, 3 of these guns in the back. But she also has this secondary armament, these 128mm guns. She's got 9x2 across the ship. So she's got 4 on each side. This camera goes wild. 4 on each side, and she's got this one on the rear here. So 3.1 second reload time with a maximum range of 10 kilometers with how we currently have the build set up. So you want to get in close, especially these guns. They are cruiser dispersion accuracy, but they do best when you're able to get close and make the shots count. In terms of her armor layout, I was noting in yesterday's video, which I'll have tagged at the end of this video if you haven't seen it, is that she has this massive 27mm bow plating. So you can definitely take a lot of damage here on the bow just because of how large that 27mm coating is, because then you eventually run into that 90mm and 190mm casemate armor belt back in the midsection of the ship. And then her stern is also 27mm, but nowhere near as large as the bow. So that's something you really have to know on the armor here, and experienced players in World of Warships will take advantage of your weak bow. And then also that, there's some Tier 9, Tier 10 battleships and super battleships that can just overmatch your bow and go right through your bow and possibly get into your citadel. So let's start taking away some things here. So the deck, that's at 30mm you're talking about. If you have battleships firing at range distance, a lob shell can come through, smash through your deck armor and your Arthwort ship casemate armor into your citadel. I mean, she does have a large citadel, so I guess that's the nice thing. You have a little bit of a turtleback armor scheme going on as well. I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's robust, but it's there nonetheless. And then when you look at her her citadel armor, it is above waterline. You can see when we're looking in here, it's pretty long. I mean, typically you can count on any citadel armor of a ship extending, of course, from the forward main turret to the rear main turret. So it's above waterline, but you do get that little bit of turtleback armor scheme going on here. And I was also discussing her belt armor, right? So I was talking about she's got this 90mm belt armor that you can really troll a lot of players into thinking that they can shoot, but if you angle right, you can bounce it, because you kind of want them to go for the armor belt versus your 27mm bow or stern. So you can control a lot of players typically if you angle well, and then of course if they try to go lower and you're angled, you can have that additional 100mm armor. So she's hard to wreck close range from enemy ships, generally speaking. So that's an overview of the armor and this ship playstyle. So let's go ahead and look at her modules. So you have no upgraded modules to get. The Ägir is available in the tech tree for 1 million free experience. So if you want to pick it up, I'd recommend going for it. But that's where you'll find her here. But back to our modules. So with the build right now, we have a 17.6 second reload time, 180-degree turn time of 28.7 seconds. Her HE shell damage, 3600. Maximum AP shell damage, 9100, which we can buff, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And that's pretty good. Get close, your AP shells will definitely begin to make a notable impact on enemy ships if they're not properly angled. Her hull, you have 62,850 hit points, so a rather large health pool for a tier 9 cruiser. So very nice, noting that this is a heavy cruiser, so she's going to have that additional health pool than other cruisers in the game. Looking at her torpedoes, they have a 90-second reload time, 6-kilometer range, 13,700 maximum damage, which you can also buff. We'll talk about that, with torpedo speed of 65 knots. So really, these torpedoes on the Ägir are kind of your trump card when you get into close quarters combat with an enemy cruiser, battleship, or even a destroyer or aircraft carrier. I've completely obliterated carriers with these torpedoes with one rack. And you saw in yesterday's video with Jean Bar how I used them when he was trying to ram me, and we didn't get rammed, and we were able to do more damage and make more impact with our team. Your gunfire control system, you have the 18.5 kilometer main battery range, which is pretty nice. Ägir, again, isn't a cruiser you play long range. She's more this medium. I would say, you want to play her like 13 kilometers and under. And then if you have the brawling situations, you want to be right up with the enemy ships. Her propulsion, 176,000 horsepower, 33.5 knots, which we can actually buff further to 35.2 knots. So she actually has pretty good speed for a tier 9 super heavy cruiser for that matter. So that is good to see here. Let's look at her main armaments with the upgrades. So in the first slot, I had the main armaments modification 1. Risk of main battery becoming incapacitated, negative 20%. Main battery survivability, plus 50%. Main battery repair time, negative 20%. And also the same things as listed for the torpedoes. Because, we also have torpedoes. So I like running this. I think it was in yesterday's video, I had my main turrets. Yeah, the first clip. One of my main turrets was knocked out, I think, by the enemy Slava. So you want to be able to increase the survivability of your main battery and torpedoes, and also reducing any risk of them becoming incapacitated. So it's important to note, I didn't actually look at the armor layout for these guns. So 360 millimeter on the front, 220 on the side, 150 up here, and then the back is 220. So their side of your turrets can be vulnerable, especially this upper part, and then 130 on top. So your torpedoes, let's highlight the location of those, are in the midsection of your ship. Wouldn't you know? Sorry, camera's a little funky. But midsection of the ship. So it means you can be able to get the torpedoes off well with the firing angles if you have enemy ships getting in really close to you. But because a lot of ships, HE spamming ships are going to be focused on your superstructure. So that's another reason why you want to be able to run the main armaments modification 1, because you want to reduce the risk of those torpedoes becoming incapacitated. You also have auxiliary armaments. This is for secondary and AA mount survivability. I don't really see it. Magazine modification, no. This reduces the risk of your ship's magazine detonating by negative 70%. Just take the Juliet Charlie combat signal, which completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating if you're playing randoms, ranked, or clan battles. Not going to talk about the damage control party. The second slot, we're actually going to change things up here. So if you're playing the ship, let's say you don't have a lot of coal yet, what I'm going to recommend is you take damage control system modification 1. This reduces risk of catching fire by negative 5%, risk of flooding by negative 3%. But if you have enough coal, I would recommend picking up the hydroacoustic search modification 1 special upgrade, which extends our action time by plus 20%. So if I take that off, right now the action time for our hydroacoustic search is 120 seconds. So if I use this combat signal, Sierra Bravo, then we have an extended action time of 12 seconds. So it goes up to 132 seconds, okay? And then if we go to stack this guy on, which we can simply click on it, it's going to take us into the armory where we're going to see these special upgrades. And you can use a coupon and you can acquire these special upgrades for 12,750 coal instead of 17,000 coal. So I've been itching to spend this, but I was like, wait, I'm saving to spend this coupon on something, and it was for this video. So we're going to go ahead and purchase that. We want to equip that on the Ägir. And we'll go back to equipment. And then we're simply going to mount and replace. And we're going to watch our hydroacoustic search action time jump up to 158.4 seconds. So when you're in those brawling situations, when you pop the hydro, having that additional time is very helpful. Especially when you have, maybe just some destroyers around, some other cruisers with torpedoes, that sort of thing. So in those long duration little fights you're going to have when you're brawling with enemy ships, the hydroacoustic search is very helpful. So we're going to run that. We don't really want engine room protection. These two in general just better all around. In terms of the third slot, you have main battery modification 2, which would increase your main battery traverse speed. Our traverse speed, as I noted, is 28.7 seconds. And I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling that. What I really want to take is the secondary battery modification 1. So this is what extends our firing range by plus 20% and our shell dispersion, more accuracy, negative 20%. Okay. So then you pair that with the Mike Yankee Sock 6 combat signal. And that is what's getting our secondary battery out to that nice 10-kilometer range with a 3.1 second reload time. These secondaries don't have a high chance of starting fires, so don't count on these being fire starters, but they have a armor penetration capacity of 32 millimeters, so quite nice indeed there. I would say no to AA guns. Aiming systems, yes, you could run this for the main focus being more accurate shell dispersion, negative 7%. But when I play the Ägir, I want to brawl. I want to get close with enemy ships, so I would rather build into my secondaries. That's how I feel with the Ägir. If you're not wanting to brawl, you're wanting to be more mid-range, then you're probably looking more at something like the aiming systems modification 1 here on the Ägir. But you're going to have the most fun with Ägir, I think, if you get in close and brawl. The fourth slot, I've taken the damage control modification 2. Fire extinguishing time, negative 15%. Flooding recovery time, negative 15%. Because you get the full duration fires and floods on the Ägir like a battleship would. So I really want to minimize any fire time or flooding time and get those fires and floods knocked out as soon as possible. So that's why I've gone for a little bit of a tank build here on the fourth slot. You could also maybe propulsion modification if you're wanting to pick your speed up, you're trying to avoid some torpedoes, or you could make that argument as well with the steering gears modification. When we're looking at her maneuverability, her rudder shift is a bit sluggish, but that's to be expected because she is a super heavy cruiser, 14 seconds. So you could get that down, but the reality is you're probably not going to be dodging a lot of incoming fire from enemy ships. It helps, but the damage control system modification 2 is what I would personally recommend you taking. So for the fifth slot, you have torpedo lookout system. You could stack this on when utilizing your hydroacoustic search, meaning you're picking up torpedoes quite a distance away. I don't feel like that's worth going for. I feel more the concealment system modification 1 is, because ship's detectability range, negative 10%, squadron detectability range, negative 10%, and dispersion of shells fired by enemies attacking your ship, plus 5%. Having the concealment build here on the Ägir means that your overall detectability is 11.9, right? So that helps you, when I talk about flanking and utilizing islands, but particularly the flanking aspect, helps you get in closer and kind of have this blitzkrieg effect on an enemy team, especially if you're divisioned up with some buddies or also on brawling ships like a Schlieffen, Prince Ruprecht, Massachusetts, Georgia, whatever that would be. So it helps you get in close and be able to brawl with the enemy team. And then if you need to disengage, having that greater concealment helps as well. You also have steering gears modification 2 and ship consumables modification 1. I don't really recommend either. This would be something if you're going for like a lighthouse build, but your lighthouse build doesn't really work well with the Ägir. And what I mean by lighthouse build is usually you sacrifice all concealment for main guns and maneuverability, but it's typically a ship that has faster reload time. 17.6 seconds. Not really here with the Ägir. Ship consumables, well, it extends the action time plus 10%. That would be something for these guys here. Not worth it. You're going to get more use out of your concealment. So, 6 slots. Main battery modification 3 is what I'm running. Main battery reload time, negative 12%. So that's what's getting us down to that 17.6 second reload time right now. Your main battery traverse speed will take a hit at negative 13%, which is that 28.7 second reload time, or reload time, your turn time you're seeing here. But I think it's worth it, just because when you're able to increase your HE, or your damage per minute output with the Ägir in these close quarter combat situations, when your guns might mean the difference between life and death of killing the enemy ship before he kills you, I find this quite helpful, especially when you tack on Adrenaline Rush, which means you're getting your reload time down even quicker, and then top grade gunner, which we're also going to look at here. So going for the reload time on the main battery, I think, is very usable and very worthy here on the Ägir. You have torpedoes, modification 2. You're not a torpedo ship in the sense of like a destroyer or a hybrid. You're just really revolve a lot around your guns, and your torpedoes only come up every 90 seconds, and you have 4 on either side. So note of that. Gunfire control system modification 2 extends your main battery firing range by plus 16%. I've already discussed you have the range of 18.5 kilometers. If you're going for range with Ägir, I would be very wondering why you want to do such things, because your shells are going to lack a lot of penetration at the longer range, and your HE is kind of meh here on the Ägir, and you're putting yourself more at vulnerable risk to battleships being able to lob those shells into the vulnerable parts of your ship through the deck, so on and so forth. Just don't take this skill, okay? If you're wanting to play a cruiser that's long range, there's plenty of other tier 9 cruisers that do that role better, or something like the Azuma, which is this passive long range, mid to long range HE spamming role. Don't take it, okay? This is what you want. Auxiliary armaments modification 2. This is being very trollish with your secondaries and also your AA. You can get your reload time down at negative 20%. So our reload time right now is 3.1 seconds, meaning you can get it under 3-second reload time on your secondary battery. In terms of the AA, I mean, your AA score rating is actually good for tier 9, 84. And you could build more into the AA even with the commander, which is something I'll bring up. However, you're going to have games where you're not always going to have carriers, and you might even have games where you're not always able to use your secondaries. Hopefully that's not the case. So I would still recommend going for your main battery modification 3. Okay, with that out of the way, let's discuss consumables briefly. Action time 5 seconds, reload time 60 seconds. So you need to be mindful of when you utilize your damage control parties, because you could find yourself in a situation where if you go to pop it and then you're sinless, let's say you put out 1 fire and then you get set on 2 fires, or torpedoes from a destroyer come up and cause flooding. Typically, you want to exercise the use of the damage control party when you're fixing multiple things on your ship, putting out multiple flood, a fire, 2 fires, a fire, and a main turret that got incapacitated. That's when you want to exercise your damage control party. Your repair party, if I take off the India Delta combat signal, you're going to see HP per second 314. Pick it back up, 377. So we're able to heal back greater health when you run the India Delta combat signal paired with the repair party. So that's what I recommend there. It's just a standard heal. There's nothing special happening there. Your hydroacoustic search, I made mention in yesterday's video that she has that typical German hydro, 6 kilometers of ships, and I was pretty sure that the detection range of torpedoes was 4 kilometers. That was accurate. Very helpful when you have that here, to have the hydro, because you're a bit sluggish with your rotor shift turning time, and just being able to avoid any damage from torpedoes is just helpful in general. So this is very good. And we just buffed the action time quite extensively, and a reload time of 2 minutes, 120 seconds. So Definitely very good here on the Ägir. If it didn't have Hydro, it would struggle a lot. But it does, and it helps make the ship shine. Let's go ahead and look at the commander. So we have Gunther Lutjens. He is quite the special, unique commander to have. He has several talents going on here for him, as well as some enhanced skills. And discussing his talents, he has main battery loader. If you get 140, you hit an enemy with your main battery shells 140 times. Your reload time will be reduced by -7.5%. Not likely so much to happen here because Ägir is more of a battle cruiser. She has a really long reload time. Usually the German ships that have a better reload time or destroyers can get more utilize this much more. But she does have that if you find yourself in that situation. If you get 100 secondary battery shell hits, you will have a secondary battery reload time reduction of -15%. Very helpful. Then you have the aerial equipment expert, which is for carriers I'm not going to discuss. And then you have resilience. So each time you spot 3 enemy ships, your ship's HP gets restored. HP per second plus 300. So it's measured in seconds equal to your ship's tier. So tier 9, 9 seconds. So 9 times 300, that's the HP in total you're able to heal back if you're able to activate the resilient talent, which typically means you're kind of leading your team to activate this talent. So like flanking, like we discussed, that's usually when you might see this talent activate on Ägir, but it just depends on with spotting and so on and so forth. So those are talents that you have. The enhanced skill we have here for a cruiser is grease the gears. So main battery traverse speed plus 20%. So I think standard it's plus 15%, if I'm not mistaken. So having that additional turn time for the main battery helps when we're kind of giving up that cost here with the main battery modification 3, or we're simply choosing not to take the main battery modification 2. Instead of opting for secondary. So we kind of make up for some lost space there for other upgrades that we have gone for. So that's nice having someone like Lutjens here on the Ägir. And you're wondering where to pick him up, he's in the armory for 175,000 call, and I definitely recommend picking him up. So in terms of the build we have going on here, for 1 point, I would recommend you take grease the gears. Second point, you could. I've gone for priority target just because I want to know when enemy team may be beginning to increase their focus on me from multiple enemy ships. This also tells me when my hydroacoustic search is down and maybe I'm hunting a destroyer and he's flashing me. And what that means is he's switching between his guns and torpedoes. So then I might be able to have a good guess of when he's dumping torpedoes on me and take countermeasures. Maybe that's cutting the throttle, it's changing my course. So this is very helpful to me in those brawling type situations when you might be left with a destroyer. Or you could be moving along, you're detected and there's no destroyer on your flank and you're 1-2 people are aiming at you. And then it kind of helps you be aware that, oh, maybe there's an enemy cruiser battleship 15, 16, 18, 20 kilometers away aiming at me. And then you know how to take countermeasures to that, okay? You could take fill the tubes, but that would get your reload time down 9 seconds. So then you're at 81 second reload time for your torpedoes. I don't really see it. I'd still go for priority target, okay? So 3 points. For 6 points, probably go ahead and pick up Adrenaline Rush. So this enhances your ship parameters for each 1% of HP loss. So your main battery is going to be reloading faster. Your torpedo tube reload time is going to be reloading faster. Airstrike is going to be reloading faster. Your secondary battery reload time is going to be reloading faster. And your continuous AA damage gets a slight buff. So this is quite helpful when you are in those close quarter combat situations and you're beginning to lose health. And you pair this in with the main battery modification 3, right? With that reload time, we're shaving off our main battery. So it helps blend in very nicely there. And then for a 10 point, you could go either direction. You could go ahead and pick up Concealment Expert, or you could go ahead and pick up the top grade gunner. So it has a permanent effect of reducing our secondary battery reload time by negative 10%. So that is how you're seeing the 3.1 second right now there. Then the can be activated is it increases your main battery reload time speed if there is a visible enemy ship within your ship's standard detectability range. And so our standard detectability range is 11.9 kilometers. So that is why I was referencing that lighthouse build. So people purposely sacrifice concealment to be able to activate the top grade gunner skill. This is very helpful, and note that the changes to ship detectability caused by firing main guns, fires on board, other combat events are not taken into account. Okay, it's just your standard detectability range, which for us is the 11.9 kilometers. So if you're intending to kind of brawl, then maybe you go this route, right? Go and pick that up for 10 point. Then for 14 point, I'd recommend you pick up Concealment Expert. I think this is the way I'd end up going. Then after your 14 points, I would go for your Superintendent. So instead of having just 3 repair parties and 3 hydroacoustic search consumables, you get additional. So we're at 4 with each of those. And I've used all 4 repair parties. You saw that in yesterday's video, which will be tagged at the end of this video. And then hydroacoustic search, just very helpful to have that. If you're dealing with maybe a last enemy ship is a destroyer or 2 destroyers, something like that, and you're trying to hunt them down and find them or pick them up aside another island that they're hiding behind, right? So I really appreciate Superintendent for the additional heal and also for the additional hydroacoustic search. So this leaves 4 points remaining. So which way am I intending to go after this? Well, I'm probably just going to be picking up the heavy AP shells. Main battery AP shell damage with a main battery caliber of 190 millimeters and above, plus 5%. So you can see there's a change here. So just get this little triangle warning icon. And we've added plus 455 maximum damage to our AP shells. Okay, so without this, they're 9100. With this, they're 9555, and that's per AP shell. Okay, so then you can say we're almost, for 3 turrets, almost 3000 additional maximum AP shell damage, but slightly less still. So to me, that's helpful. I like that. And then I have 1 point left. So then maybe taking a defense skill like Last Stand, that we can still maintain some speed or maneuverability with our rudder if our engine or steering gears get incapacitated. So this is the build I'm intending to take here on the Ägir. In terms of other options, what would I think about? Well, if you're finding yourself getting a lot of use of torpedoes, this can be kind of trollish. You could take the Enhanced Torpedo Explosive Charge. It's plus 15%, right? Yeah. So then our torpedoes go up to 15,755 per torpedo. Otherwise, it's 13,700. So if you want to make sure that you execute your enemies as you drive past them, this is a nice add-on. But again, you're limited to range with this, right? So it has to be within 6 kilometers for you to utilize this. We're here, 18.5 kilometers, and you're always getting that additional damage. So that is why I lean towards heavy AP shells over the Enhanced Torpedo Explosive Charge. I've also seen some people like to take Survivability Expert, so then you're buffing your health up to 66,900. I really struggle thinking of taking this skill, honestly, just because I'd rather... It's a defense skill, and I want to buff my offensive capacity a bit more, if I'm being honest. But you could try this out if that's you, but in general, I recommend taking Survivability Expert on most all cruisers in the game. There's only a couple of cruisers I would make an exception for, something like, like the Austin or like maybe San Diego you run this on. Otherwise, I don't really recommend it. The other was the A defense and ASW expert. So you can see when we take this, our A defense rating jumps from 84 to 90. Okay. This is assuming you're going to have enemy aircraft carriers, players in the game for you to get that additional use out of. Not to mention that we do get a buff to our airstrike. So we go up to 1,840 maximum bomb damage, but pretty soon Wargaming's changing I think they're standardizing the depth charge damage for ship and class and tier. So we'll have to see what that ends up looking like. So that's going to be outdated by the time pretty soon after this video has come out, most likely. But again, that's basing it on if you're going to have carriers or submarines in the game. So for me, kind of going this route in general, I feel like has the most use for here in World of Warships. So that's going to be our video for today in looking at the Ägir. One thing I did want to note, I meant to discuss earlier, was the camouflage. So I'm running just the permanent that comes with, it's the default. I kind of like this. Was it Arctic? Or does it even say? This kind of has an Arctic feel to it, right? Then you have the standard. And then you have the Nordic. And because I live in Norway, you can see we're on fjords. I absolutely love this camouflage. Personally, you might think it's despicable, but I absolutely love it. But it's going to cost you 3,000 doubloons to pick it up. And I just don't know if I feel like spending 2,000 doubloons for a camouflage that does nothing for me now at this point besides just looks. Since you already get your economic bonus with your commander with the default package. Okay, so that's that. And apparently it's time to pick up a reward because it's after 12 now here. So thanks for going to wrap our video up. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. If you have questions about a skill I did not discuss or a upgrade I did not discuss, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you're running on Ägir. If you're running it, it's a great ship. I definitely recommend picking it up here in World of Warships for a million free experience. So until next time, take care.